Husbands, when did your nagging wife become sweet? The moment she suddenly began to exaggerate your virtues and praise you rather than nag you. What about that imposing and commanding husband? When did he change? The moment he softened and complimented you and just realized when he looked at you, you're the best thing that ever happened in his life. The same goes for children. The moment they stop being naughty and a thorn in the flesh, they become an excitement. Just as we parents, the moment we pamper them with all that is there, endearing as it were, we start beginning to see relationships change. They become sweet. But we know it's not the tendency of us human beings to be sweet all the time. There is that part of us that just saucy, as they say, nasty. And more often than not, that comes out and dominates us. But that should not be the dominating accent. And the text before us is inviting us to realize with God's people who are just being in exile, and we are coming back as those that had survived the exile, and now we're meant to rebuild Jerusalem, to rebuild the temple, to rebuild the character of God, and to rebuild the reputation that should characterize a people who belong to God, about whom it was very well known, carried the idea that their God was great, their God was big. He had overcome the Egyptian enemies. He had overcome the stuff that just would have destroyed these people when they were journeying. It is the same God who had overcome the exile for them and brought them back to their native land. But something has gone grossly wrong. These remnants have set their priorities wrongly. They are concentrating on pleasing themselves. They are not looking at making God number one, and they are not confessing their sins. They're actually lost in themselves and not in their God. And you see, weakened by the rubbish, the destruction all around them, and there's so many enemies, they begin to cry, the work of God cannot go forward. And so the prophet Haggai rises and says to them, should your intents go forward while the work of God retrogresses? And we may testify to the end that being a largely elderly people with young ones going away from Parrsboro and our town losing its status is now just part of Cumberland County, perhaps is sinking instead of getting bigger. We say, as everything is sinking, even the Parrsboro United Baptist Church is sinking. As somebody remarked to one of us, you're just a dying church. Are we going to buy into that? Or we are going to rise like the remnant of God's people and listen to what God has to say? The population must have died down. The industries have closed down. And the economy of this particular town is low. And the churches are begging for numbers. And so on and so forth. We may keep on crying. Is God still on the throne? Are there yet people that are constituting the church? Does God still have a remnant that he can use? That's why you're here, that remnant. Are you going to slam back and say, we are finished? Or you're going to say, no, we will rise and do God's bidding? This is what our God is calling us to. He wants us to be a people strengthened by himself and we will be that people strengthened by himself if we answer three simple questions arising from our text. Our God says to us, be strong. Let's ask ourselves, what is it to be strong? Just what does that mean? Let's begin by not looking at what it is not to be strong. Because when it says be strong, some texts say be encouraged, others says cheer up, and still other versions say do not be discouraged. So if we are saying be strong, our God is speaking to us like that. Not to be strong, therefore, is to be a discouragement to others. Not to be strong is to be able to destroy. We know how in the world strength is destroying others, towering above them, and showing them they're mightier and greater than they are, just trading upon them and grounding them to power. Well, the Bible says that's not strength. That's what cowards do. Those of you who know what bullies do, they enjoy bullying others, but the moment you stand up to them, you see how quickly they will sink. But many think that is what strength is: suppress others, dampen their spirits. Be altogether those who show that you are towering above everybody else. On the contrary, when the Bible tells us in this text, be strong, it is saying to each one of us, be an encouragement to others. Be the one who lifts their spirit up. Be the one who stirs in them an arousal that says, I cannot slump back and sleep. I must awake and do. It is to be able to bring peace where there is pain, comfort where there is sorrow, healing where there is hurt, and joy where there is sadness. To be able to lift up those who are slumming and going down. To be able to say, when you are in pain, I'll be in pain with you, until you come to peace, so that I enter in pleasure with you, so that I'm not the one who is harming, I'm the one who is helping. That is what strength is in the deeper sense of the word. And that is why our Bible is very clear about the Lord Jesus Christ. It says, he, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross. See how he left his honor, his glory, his heightened position to the lowliest of positions on earth to help humanity. And that's why the Bible clearly tells us God has come to help his people. That's what power is. That is what strength in the deeper sense is. But just who should be strong? Notice how our text says, be strong, O Zerubbabel. Be strong, O Joshua. Be strong, all you people. And Zerubbabel and Joshua are leaders. They may be civic, they may be political, but they're leaders. So it's saying, be strong, you ministers in the church. Be strong, you board members of the church. Be strong, you ordinary members of the church. Be strong, you adherents to the church. Be strong, you attendees to the church. Be strong, you who know there is this being called God. Be strong. You're the ones to be. Oh, I'm not a minister. I'm not a church leader. I'm not a member of this church. I'm not even an adherent. I don't know how to place myself. You who are listening to this word, be strong. The instruction is to each one of us. Do you care about God? Are you concerned about this being who brought you into existence? Are you concerned about this being who preserves humanity and has a better cause for them than the world wars that have wrecked the whole world, than these bitter things that we hear about, where humanity is much more concerned about weapons of destruction than they're about weapons of construction? Our God is saying, you who would be strong, must you who hear your God. If then we understand in a little measure what it is to be strong, and who should be, when, and where, and how we to be strong. We have to be strong at individual level. Notice how the Lord addresses, be strong, you, Zerubbabel, you, Joshua, you, the rest of the people. He's almost saying, all right, be strong, Emmanuel. Be strong, Bethel. Be strong, Harriet. Be strong, Alexander. Be strong, El. Be strong, Goddy. Be strong, Krista. Be strong, Jane. Be strong, Anna. Be strong. So each one of us can be called by name. And he's saying to each one of us, be strong. Be strong as a church community. How can we be strong as a church community? Do we sense our bonding? He's telling the children of Israel, look, you are not isolated individuals any longer. The exile might have thrown the bottom out of you. You are back to your own land. And your God has worked this out. Are you losing sight of him? And are you losing sight of the purpose for which you are in existence? Come on, strength is wake up to the demand of your God and act according to that. Be strong. Be strong as those who realize they don't stand on their own strength. They stand on the strength of their God. Be strong. God permitting, as we look at the next phase and work, we'll look at a little more detail. But let me just give you a little indication of what it means to be strong practically. God is dealing with the people that have broken his heart and dishonored him as Lord for their individual and collective lives. And when he says to them, be strong, he's saying, forget about your personal interests and begin to think about the interests of your God. Let me ask each one of us to be honest with ourselves. What's my first interest? What is your first interest? You see, those of us who are in the intercessory group, we are looking only on Wednesday, that when we want to come together to pray, our doctor's appointments come on Tuesdays. When we want to pray, we have visitors coming on Tuesdays. When we want to pray, there's so much activity happening on Tuesdays. And so we find, okay, there are 10 of us today, 5 the next day, and the other day, 3, because the doctor says come. The visitor says you're not going to your printer. So many things happening. It's very easy to begin to say, well, that's all right, I'm going to a doctor's appointment. And that's a good thing, because we need to see our doctor. What's wrong with entertaining our visitors? After all, we don't want to disrespect them. We want to show that we care for them. But who is seeing that when God's people want to come together and do something that will bring God in their midst, the opposition will not come in bad things, it will come in good things. How many of us realize that? Think about how many times I've said, all right, today I am not going to church because I am going to work. Nothing wrong with working. We need to put food on our table. But how many of us realize we can actually say to God, God, I need to be in your house when you want me to be in your house, and that God can open the door for us. But see how comfortable we begin to say, all right, things are going all right. I'm just going to work. I'm just going to see a doctor. I'm just entertaining my visitors. I'm just doing these wonderful things in themselves. And yet notice they're taking our attention away from God. And this is what happened to these people. They're doing nice things. They're building their houses. They're making sure that the wind doesn't kill them or the frost in the night, whatever it is. Good things. But God is saying, you are thinking about yourselves instead of thinking me. You are building your houses, you're not building the house of God. How many of us can recollect that I said during our closing service that somebody uttered a word that told somebody, don't come to Parrsboro United Baptist Church anymore? Are you the person who did that? Here's a sign of strength. To go to that person you offended and to say to them, I am sorry. I shouldn't have offended you. Seemingly very simple words, but that's a sign of strength. And yet in the world, when you begin to go to others, it's a sign of weakness to somebody, I'm sorry. I can't ask for forgiveness. Can you picture this? That the God who should have pounced upon you and me because of the wrong we have done, that God came to beg us to love him. When did you last beg anybody to love you? We are filled with this individualistic and personal awareness that our ego takes the better of us, and selflessness, something that will distance from us, is a sign of weakness. But we talked about Jesus, who for the joy set before him endured the cross. No suffering is worse than that. But he inconvenienced himself to convenience us. So he suffered to bring us salvation and solace. He was shamed to bring us honor and dignity. He died to bring us life and eternal well-being. For whom have you gone all out and even apologize for having done right, simply because you want to bring somebody back on the right course? I can't do that. No, you can't. Well, that's why God is saying, be strong. You can do it in yourself. I can do it in you. I remember teaching with a young man who became a Christian during the, he is associated with us at church. But he remembered that when he was a high school boy, he had stolen books from the school. But I know he was teaching, and had been teaching for quite a few years. But he picked up those books, went to high school where he had learned, and went to the head teacher and said, I've come. And said, why did you come? So I bring these books. What about those books? When I was your student, I stole them. The principal was shocked. I never saw anything like that. He says, yeah, you do well to be shocked. But here's the thing. I'm not the same thief that I was when I was in school. God has touched my life. And now I am strong enough to own up to my own wrongdoing and take a better course. How many of us will do that in instances where we know we've gone wrong? Be strong as an individual, be strong in the family, be strong in the church, be strong in the community, be strong in the circumstances that encircle us. And because we know some of us know situations in which we've grumbled and we've been disgruntled, and we've discouraged so many people. And we say, oh, I don't care what they feel, because this is what I feel about myself. I want to feel nice about myself. If Jesus wanted to feel nice about himself, nothing wrong with that. He would never have gone to the cross. But he wanted to feel nice about your redemption and mine. And he suffered hell on the cross. What's your situation? Will you be strong God's way? Or will you be strong your way? How do you answer that question? And I invite Harriet and Becca to join me as we do this.